local planning committee meeting. Appreciate you all being here. I know we're asking a lot of you. We're just all in the same, we're all in the same boat doing it here, getting it done. So the first item on the agenda is to review and approve the meeting minutes, I think for both March 18th and the earlier March.
Right.
Right?
March
Which
4th.
Barbara sent to both of us.
Right.
I move approval. Second?
To both of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Okay, great. So that was, just for clarity and documentation, that was the March 4th minutes as well as the, March 4th and March 18th. Cool. All right. Our agenda, we are meeting here to try and accomplish as much as we can, knowing kind of the largeness of the job that's in front of us, and knowing that, Ty and Bond needs to finish by the end of June, and there are a lot of, that's why the agenda is fairly broad. And Christina and I had, when we talked, said, yes, we will go ahead and keep this meeting on the agenda just to try to bang out anything we can accomplish together. So thank you all for being here. We do have kind of an off-cycle meeting, but that's the way it worked out, for next week, which is, so a week from today, which is the 8th. It's at an odd time, right? It's at
4:30?
4:30.
4:30
Yes. And
here?
yes, until 6, because the planning board has a meeting at 6:30. So for an hour and a half, hopefully that will be enough time for Sharon. Unfortunately, there's a 2 to 4 meeting here as well, so we're back to back.
That's what we got. I am gonna have to participate virtually, but again, all of this is imperfect, but we do the best we can. Do you, Sharon wasn't able to be at this meeting today. Do you wanna just share a little bit of, Christine, do you mind sharing what you thought Sharon's plan is for next week? Because she's gonna really run that meeting, we hope.
So I think Sharon, for next week she gave an introduction at the last meeting regarding the Miro software. So I think she would like to do an activity to walk us through utilizing that software, but also allowing the committee to identify and prioritize action items in the LCP that we have so far. Just to get a sense as the Ty and Bond are working on the layout of the documents, they also want to be able to begin to hone in on goals, objectives, and strategies. So I think that's the intent for next week.
Do you, from your understanding of it, just so everyone's prepared, because this is on the agenda tonight, again, to try to get as much of this, us working as efficiently as, efficient as the rep, but as possible. Does everyone need to bring a laptop to that meeting?
I'm not positive, but I would recommend that everyone bring a laptop or some type of electronic device so that they can participate.
Okay. If anyone's familiar with the software, I know, you were?
I looked at it
Yeah.
and played with it, not extensively. I
Okay.
didn't want to mess up anything that
No,
Sharon might be trying
I know Garrett had to, I got up to speed about that, about, multiple, yes, multiple, ways to work on this, okay? Is it
under 40.
is it web-based?
Yes, you can deal with any kind of, like, I could go
Yeah.
on my iPad
It's
or
like
a
cloud-based.
laptop or
Okay.
anything
Yeah, I
else.
had it up on my iPad
Okay.
last time.
So everyone needs something for that. And did you get the sense that that the ranked voting kind of thing was gonna happen in that meeting next week?
I'm not positive, depending on where we are with some of the housing strategies that we're looking to finalize, as well as I'm still updating the capital facilities and infrastructure section. So just to tighten that up. So that may be premature, so this may be an exercise just to at least get familiar with the software, and that might provide an opportunity for the committee members to at least begin to look at the goals, objectives, and action items as far as the layout of the document. The other, I understand that Sharon also is interested and I know we've asked, for her to provide the actual, layout of the document with graphics, maps, so that we can get a better visual of what this document is going to look like once the, work product has been completed, so.
Yeah,
I
so,
think she'll walk us through that
yeah,
as well.
so around,
Ryan Vaughn has done so far.
okay, so what I have, just so that we're all, because I think it's good for this to all be entered in the public record and everything, there was an email from March 30th, so that would have been yesterday. No, that would have been Sunday,
Sunday.
right? I was like, kind of the days, from Sunday at 2:55 to Christine and I, because I had asked for the draft layout, and so as of Sunday, Sharon said, we will have a draft layout ready this coming week. It will include the capital plan, updated text from last month's edits, glossary supporting studies. With those additions, the major item remaining to be completed would be the action plan priorities. Again, kind of entering this just so that everyone's on the same page. Neither Christine nor I, there have been no visual. We have only seen the Word document. So that's an important thing.
So that didn't reference the visual, what you were just reading? Didn't sound like it.
We will have a draft layout ready this coming week.
Okay.
So I'll go on. Could we combine the action plan prioritization exercise with a review of the draft layout on April 8th in a workshop format? Some LCPC members, Mary and Brian, wanted additional time to set up the decision-making process in Miro, so I welcome their input before the 8th. Okay, I'm just saying this so that
She
we're
took
all on the
words
same
right
page.
out of my mouth.
Okay, all right.
Yes, there's specific categories as far as putting those action items in prioritization,
Okay.
which was basically what Brian had laid out. And
Got it.
Sharon had noted that there was a way in, how do you pronounce it, Miro?
I think Miro, but I could be
Miro,
wrong.
There
Miro,
was-
wifey, weefy. Yeah.
There was a way to
Yeah.
put those specific categories within the software, so it would be easier to dot or post it.
And you feel like you're doing that, okay?
Well, I haven't
Okay,
started,
all right.
but I believe the intent is that, in that direction.
All right, I got you. So I had also asked for the executive summary. I have not seen that. She said, I have started an exec summary, but there isn't a lot of content yet, as the action plan priorities should be included featured. I would also suggest the LCP review and decide on David's proposals changes to housing on the first, yeah, which we're gonna get to, I know, and set up, we're gonna try and accomplish anything we can. Set up
We're not
committee.
gonna accomplish anything, but we'll report.
Yeah, we'll do something. Set up committees to review, revise section others accordingly for any changes, and develop a schedule for doing so. This is something I just want everyone to hear. Due to the limited budget remaining, I will need to be strategic about how many times T&B edits the layout by June. So if the committee can do one last sweep of the goals, objective actions, and Christine can send me a compiled final draft, we'll make one more round of changes in May. This all seems rather ambitious for something we haven't seen, but I'm attaching a revised schedule timeline that the LCPC should also review on the 1st. So more to come.
Is she gonna be here next week?
She is.
Okay, 'cause I know she was gonna, oh, maybe.
We should
this
have
is-
we should have an opportunity for, I should be able, if it's
But that's
cloud-based,
only
be
gonna
able
be-
to do Miro remotely.
That's only gonna be an hour and a half meeting, right?
Correct, so that's why I'm setting it out there, that it's a lot, so anything that we can, accomplish today. So it sounds like the ranked order of the Miro is gonna be number 1, and maybe we'll see a visual. Before we dig into the other parts of the agenda, when Christine and I were talking about the Miro ranking, I wanted to bring it here for discussion. The deliberation of the committee had been a little bit to not go too Christine wisely pointed out that we should go through the process of ranking and prioritizing and using that technology. I wanted to bring it here and have you guys think through a little bit and deliberate on how deep do you want that list to be? Like, it doesn't seem like if we have 90 actions that we want to rank 1 through 90, that we probably want to come up with, but I want to bring, you understand what I'm saying? Like, Ed, like, to segue into this, Ed wisely said at one point, you know, how specific do we want to be shot down? Like, no, you should work on this before that, you know. Number 50 and 51 on the list seems hard, but.
How many actions do we have right now? We don't have 90, we probably have closer to 50.
Still, do you want to fight about 25 versus 28? And I see, given, and I'm bringing it here, you don't have to have an immediate answer, given the deliberative nature about the housing production plan, I see that as a,
Precursor.
yeah. No, that should be number 22 and it's number 30, you know?
Sure, because the way we're going, I think the number of housing recommendations has probably gone from the original draft of 15 to my draft of 20 or 25 to Christine's latest of probably 30 or 35. I mean, it's getting pretty
We can pare
detailed.
that down.
But it's getting detailed because there's some good stuff in there. Now, as far as ranking some of these, that may be hard. So, I don't know yet, I just don't know.
Is there a way to group any of the action
Yeah.
items together?
I think as part of the
Aggregate.
exercise, that's what we will do, and I think it becomes a little bit more cohesive when you start grouping them. And for the prioritization, sometimes you may not have to prioritize. What you can do is just identify it as a long, medium, or short-term goal. And maybe that might save the nuance of, like, order of priority of what to do first. It kind of leaves it a little bit more broad.
Well, we should have all the actions on the table initially, and then
Yes.
we'll be able to see easier what we can group, and there may be a whole group that we don't need to prioritize, and then maybe we need to prioritize the top group. But I don't think we're really gonna know that quite yet.
Yeah, and
And
I
I-
think that, oh, I'm sorry, Mary.
I'm sorry. I think that's what Brian was getting to in his examples, those 4 categories that help you put them into
Yeah.
plan and validate, focus and deliver, investigate, and lay out the groundwork now. So you look at feasibility, what can be done, placed in those 4 categories, and then they can automatically kind of rank. It's almost to help as a first step,
Yes.
instead of assigning a numeric value to arbitrarily what would be nice and what wouldn't be nice.
And I say it only just as, I don't, since the Board of Selectmen, you know, just of threading this needle of like, you can't tell us what to do. Yeah, we're not telling you what to do, you know, we're just trying to, you know.
But I understand, but that was his, so to kind of narrow that, what is feasible now, what maybe we can put aside, again, almost, in my mind, thinking akin to select board a little bit, as far as maybe how they could approach certain goals and actions with,
Okay.
that would be me, I'd say, what's feasible now? What can we just do, put off to later? That could be a way to approach it.
Also, I mean, you have actions that are in completely different areas. You know, what we do with land conservation is sort of a separate group of people in state agencies and an economic development strategy that the Chamber of Commerce would be involved in. You know, and so it comes down to, in each of those areas, you may have a ranking on earlier or later,
Yeah.
but you're expecting, you know, all this comes under the auspices and direction of the select board
Yeah.
to put into action. You hope that they can, well, the saying goes, walk and chew bubble gum at the same time.
I'm
you know,
fine with all, I'm
you know,
fine with all of it.
yeah.
I just bring it here so that we're all collecting our
Yeah.
thoughts, because the format we've seen it in has not ever been, you raise a very good point of view of like disparate things. The format we've already seen it has been topically,
Yeah.
and it's been in, you know, just sort of, Word doc, topically organized without that, and
And
so.
you know, there are a few things that sort of join together, like identifying areas to do density housing, and when it's going to have sewer services there. I mean, those sorts of activities joined together, but, um, where you're doing the major improvements for roadway drainage projects, it doesn't fit into any of that.
Christine?
Just really quickly, I think what I've seen in some of the other comprehensive plans is that you'll have the goals, the objectives, and then the action items. And so they will be paired, by category. And so
Yep.
I think there will be some type of inherent organization, and to Ed's point,
Yes.
there'll be some connectivity with, the overlapping, and how we want to then prioritize some of the groupings, particularly the ones that are either competing land uses or they're connected, they're dovetailed together, so.
And if I may, Joyce?
Please.
Again, with the natural ability to fall into certain categories anyway, and to link that to the prioritization, the way Brian had laid it out, or his thinking process, was really to have that understanding with the select board that right now, at least the way the tracking part of it and the implementation and tracking, this way of prioritizing organization will fall right into that method that has already been approved, that tracking method. So he wants to lay it so it's almost seamless in that.
Whenever you have a large body of things, and we don't want to take 90 or whatever the number is and rank them all versus another, but there's always different ways to organize. Now, whether the best way to organize is Brian's 4 or Ed's pointing out that there's groupings already within the plan, I don't know what the best answer is there. I do think, Ed, there's going to be some overlap between those sections, or that's not enough.
Yeah, yeah.
But we don't need to do a mirror thing yet. We need to get the whole list, we need to see how we can group them, and then we need to do the ranking.
So, it's a seamless point. We all make a great team. The Miro thing is happening next week. And if it,
Yeah, I do want to point out that sometimes we jump to these conclusions
Yeah.
and they're not justified.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not sure that doing the mirror ranking is the right
I
answer.
hear you, and I hear you, and I was gonna transition a little bit, which is kind of why I read that email out loud, because, here we are, and I've kind of gotten a little bit of the perspective that I feel like we've done a lot, and I wonder, I have gotten like, okay, since the timing, we have Christine and our professional staff, and we have our consultant, if we have to step back a little bit, and like, we've done it, we have more to do, but let them kind of, I'm taking what she's telling me about, like, we do not have the privilege of unfettered revision over and over again about this. It doesn't mean that our input hasn't been super important. Go ahead.
But to David's point, are we ready to do the ranking if we don't have all of
some of the
we haven't
things we're gonna
looked at
rank.
all of the content
I
yet?
totally, I support, I agree with what you're saying, David, and I don't know. But this date is kind of being like, we're doing it on the 8th.
So
Yeah.
So, well,
I don't think I think the consultant has to explain to us clearly how we're going to do this. Then we can let the consultant go away for a little while. And then we can we can group them, we can rank them. We can do all that here with Christine.
Is that
We
how
don't
you,
need-
is it, go ahead.
I think if we're going to limit the amount of consultant's time, I think we need an introduction, and then I think we need to do some work ourselves.
I agree, because we need to understand what this tool is and how we would utilize it, and then we need to work with it.
And do we want to give that time over to that, or is there other ways to do it?
Well-
Because-
And I want to let Christine weigh in a little about this, because you, in a good way, you really thought, well, expressed to me what I heard was that it was a core use of the consultant's time for them to try to take us through some of this prioritization. You said the process was important.
I think the process is important, whether we do it internally, you know, whether we put up,
Good old sticky
school
notes.
and-
Yes, Post-it notes, yes.
Honestly, we could be doing that.
Or,
Yep.
the software, I haven't used it, and so I'm not familiar with it. I'm not sure how this is gonna play out next week. And because we are limited with time and we have not seen all of the comprehensive list of action items or goals and strategies, you know, I think that's something we can maybe do internally, but for, I do think at some point we need to do it, whether I don't know if we're ready to do it next week.
I got another idea.
I just want to say, I deeply respect what you're
It's
saying.
something to
Do.
do with sticky notes. Sharon provided us a while ago with a matrix of all the actions.
Right.
I think the only one that we're really revising at this point to any extent is the housing section. That'll be ready in about a week's time, maybe half a week, but let's just say. So that's all gonna be ready. I think we can take that list and see whether Brian's 4 categories or something along the lines of what Ed said, I think we can do that with or without the consultant. And I think we can do a lot of it next week. I think the mirror part of it is probably pretty nice. I don't know that for sure. But I think maybe we need to take a step before then, which means pushing back what the consultant is doing on the 8th. That's just, you know, help me revise that concept, but that's what I'm throwing out.
I agree with what you're saying. I think we have to give them the opportunity to set the pace a bit because we haven't seen this stuff. So I would kind of, we have not, David, so.
I would be more comfortable about them setting the pace, if they had been doing that well enough to this point.
May I offer a suggestion that really kind of blends everything and based off of
Please.
what I could hear last week?
Yeah.
It was difficult sometimes for me to hear. Sharon's just offering this software as a collaborative tool. As Christine says, we don't need the tool to be able to do the exercise. I can actually see 2 whiteboards and a bunch of sticky notes
Yep.
right here, and we utilizing the time together
Look,
and
Bernie didn't
Brian's
charge
sense
us.
of organization to just
Color-coded.
draw 4 categories and put sticky notes
Right.
up in all, we did that during the meetings that we had before. So for her to come in, because I have taught softwares and I had offered, I can do that, but if not, I mean, why take the time to devote to learning a collaborative digital system when because the time constraints, you can simply do it manually here. It would save the consultant's time, it would push us forward, and we would be working in a collaborative environment, but just manually. So that, and then also that gives them to really push the work more on the content that is greatly needed.
I
That's-
absolutely agree with that.
I agree with that.
If
Yep.
we were a group that was together, a team that worked, that needed to learn, or that would be valuable for us, then the orientation time would be great, because we'd use it all the time. It would be part of our toolbox for ad infinitum. But we're a bunch of different people with different abilities to pick it up and do it, and, you know,
We'll never use it
we're
again.
not gonna use it again. And that's a chunk of time that isn't happening this week, and it's not happening until next week. We could just do it with the sticky notes, you know? I didn't even hear you,
So that's what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is, this is all super useful. What I'm hearing is, so for the 8th, and I think you'll have a chance, Christine, to hopefully connect with Sharon before then, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, the committee sentiment is to try to do the prioritization on the 8th, but as lo-fi as possible, so that
Yep.
you could focus on the deliberation as opposed to the software.
Exactly.
And I think that's threading the needle of what she's asking for the pace. So action plan prioritization, and then we're also gonna see a draft layout on April 8th.
Would it be helpful, because of the categories within the LCP, natural systems, built systems, to prepare? For us to be able to now prioritize, for everyone to really be familiar with all of the actions, if we group out in groups of 2, and for the next week, have 2 people work on a section that's of interest to them, to at least familiarize with, or all of us need to know every one of them, or breaking it down into those little mini groups to prepare for this? I don't know if that would be an easier route for content familiarization.
I think we should all probably, there's not that many.
Okay.
I don't know if, I mean, you can have we all have our area that we're super smart about, our subject matter experts about, but should probably
I
know
wouldn't put that
them. Know them all.
Yeah.
And then my other request would be that I think we're at the point now, reading between those lines, like, we're gonna really have to step back as a committee in terms of like the wordsmithing. We have not overly done this, but we have not, but I'm just reminding us all, like, we're gonna
that
step
part's
back.
done.
Yeah, we're stepping back, and that's gonna be with our professional staff,
Yes.
because we're trying to finish this.
You know, one other thing Bernadette and I were just talking is like, after May, we're gonna
In
have new
6 weeks,
select
there'll be a
board.
whole different
Yeah,
makeup.
no,
of
we've talked about this,
personalities
Christine and I have
to the
talked about
select
this.
board,
Yep.
although, given, what has happened in the past, that is a concern, but we can't control that either.
Nope.
All we
No,
can do is do our best
We can make
to
the
move
education as
forward.
easy as possible,
Yep.
though.
Yeah.
All right, with that,
So,
okay, we did F,
well, hold on.
please.
The document entitled Harwich LCP Action Implementation Plan that Sharon gave us, dated February 4th,
Right.
that's got all of those things in a matrix format. It's probably the easiest thing for us to use to start with. Now, the housing ones will change, and those will be ready by next meeting. But we can use that document.
We can
And people
print
should be
out-
pretty familiar with
Oh,
that
print it out
document
in a
in
larger-
advance of the meeting.
Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
love it. I will send that with the agenda, because I have to post the agenda. LPC.
I know we were talking about having a fall special town meeting for all of this. Do we have any idea, is that gonna be like a September, October, November?
I don't know.
It's typically,
And with,
it's typically, unless it's something very much pro forma, it's typically never in September,
Right,
because September is usually with back to school,
transition time, yeah.
too crazy.
Maybe very late September is the
No.
only time there's ever.
Well, I'm
This town will never get its act together to get it done in September.
No.
well, the reason I'm
Maybe
asking,
October, more likely November.
the reason I'm asking is that the contract still expires June 30, correct? But we have to have, the planning board at some point has to have a public hearing on this, correct?
Well, we should also,
Yes.
Have public engagement.
before that, have a public engagement
I know, I'm just saying is that
committee.
it's April by the time it was May, and we've still got a lot to do before.
We do. Can I ask a very technical question? You don't have to have an answer, but a bird in your ear, Christine, about, so I assume this is gonna come to us, it is gonna come to us designed, and, we're gonna, quote, have it finished by the end of June, and there may be, depending on the select board, whatever, I can anticipate that there are going to be revisions.
Hopefully mine.
Yes, but just even say, like, someone's like, I'm gonna die on that hill, I can't have that sentence in there. I'm just using it as an example. You have to be able to delete the sentence.
Well,
We need to have a way to edit this, not redesign it, but whatever format it comes to us in, which I think is, this seems very basic, but I think it's a basic, we should ask T&B as we get closer to it, like, how is this gonna be? Is this gonna be in a cloud-based document that we can access to edit later on?
I don't know. And
That's why I'm
because-
asking it. I don't have to have an answer, but I would think that's part of their parting shot is we gotta have some way to, we're not gonna redesign it, but some way to, if we're talking public engagement.
Oh, yeah, if we're gonna
You
have
know,
public hearings.
maybe we're gonna have to switch number 4 to number 5 because everyone says, you know, like, and not, I hope, there's a variety of softwares, I mean,
We have,
you know, you could do that, but.
I think the one we're most worried about is what the select board will say.
Right.
And I think we now have a working history of taking some significant comments from them and having our planning staff
Yes.
work that into
I
an
just wanna
acceptable
make sure that they're able to do it,
I
but it's
don't,
not
I don't
enough,
think it's gonna be that big a lift to be able to do that again.
but it's, David, I'm being very technical. It can't be in a proprietary software that we can't access. That's what I'm asking.
That's out of my
Yeah,
knowledge.
correct. That's what I'm saying. It's gotta be.
I acknowledge it's out
We
of my
gotta be
knowledge.
able to be a way that we, yeah, we have to have a way to be able to tweak it a little bit, but
Okay.
low stakes. Okay. All right, so we accomplished something in F. We're gonna be analog. I love it. David, let us know about the action plans. That was a February 4th email? 2/4?
Let me just
Was
email
that the
it.
spreadsheet?
Yeah.
If I remember from last meeting, and we were talking about this, at one point I remember Sharon saying that she was talking to me, I'll provide you an updated one, because some of them have changed.
Yeah.
Well, I'll ask her
So
for
I-
it.
That's what you
I'll
should
ask
do.
her for it.
Yeah.
I'll ask
Yeah,
her for it.
if you can,
That
that
Ask
that
her.
would be what
Love
we
it,
should.
love it. We're gonna do analog. All right, cool. So, David and Ed, your item B on the agenda, help us understand and help us accomplish, help us help you as much as we can tonight.
So Christine shot herself in the foot when she did such a good job getting the select board's comments that we gave her this task to take the lead on. And she has done so, but we don't have it ready for you in time, and will be, because Ed and I are meeting with Christine on Thursday, so we should have something ready for you.
Give us the
Very soon.
highlights, just so we can wrap our brain around
The
it.
highlights are that the chapter 4 list of recommended actions was really not very strong. So I did a suggested rewrite. Christine has now done more on that, including some rewrites of section 3. So now we have to make sure that all fits together.
Okay.
Is that fair? 'Cause
Yeah.
Yes.
What are the big guns, you think? Just the big ideas that we're, I mean, is it zoning, is it, it's good for us to,
It's, it's all encompassing relative to housing and.
There's
but
a lot of stuff in there.
Some of it's zoning, some of it's, incentivizing some, creative options for
Cool.
development, as
Cool.
well as, funding and looking to not just affordable, but also attainable
Yep.
housing.
Yep. cool?
And really clarifying who and what does that mean, and, going forward, how can we do some, better community engagement and education, relative to, let's put a face on, the recipients of those, members of our community in need, so, yeah.
Okay. There was an article in the Cape Cod Times today, as you see, about how much you need to buy a home
Oh,
or
God.
rent a home in each town.
Every town, yeah.
$220,000.
How much?
$220,000 in Harwich.
to do what?
The income.
Salary?
To buy a
The
home.
income you would
Oh, your
need.
salary.
This
has
is
to be-
how they, yes, this
Yeah.
is, this
To-
is how they calculate, like, title of the article is what you have to earn to buy a house in, every town in the Cape.
Well, if you look at it,
Oh, he's got the, look at it, he's got the grin.
Harwich,
Pretty up there these days.
has the highest medium rental rate of any town on Cape.
Why?
I don't know. That's what,
And there was, I looked at what they were saying was the
Lack of
median
supply.
rental rates, and they were maybe a little underestimated too, that was in the comments about the article.
yeah.
Yeah, that like, yeah, it's actually, you can't get anything for that, so.
We have,
Why? Because everybody wants to be in Harwichport. All the out-of-staters, all the out-of-towners. That house on Forest Street just went on the market today. There were 3 cars from New York and Connecticut there.
But the average sale price of homes would be higher in Chatham, Orleans, maybe Brewster, but yet
Well,
we
actually-
get to be to the top.
Actually, Harwich is getting higher, if you look at the
Whoopee.
numbers, yeah,
We could be number 1.
yeah, just what we need.
Not where you want to be
With that
number one,
report
huh?
that we were looking at last week, I was just,
the median,
surprised, yes.
the medium sales price, Harwich is only beat out by Chatham, Orleans,
You know, those are the two.
Wellfleet, Truro,
Ingham.
and Providence.
Freetown.
So we're not number one.
No.
All right, okay.
It's in that area.
So that
depressing.
sounds amazing. Thank you for bringing your expertise to that. It's really putting meat on the bones
That's unbelievable.
to the idea that we know about, so thank you. Cool.
But we have the third highest, the, to afford the medium-priced home, we hit,
$220,000.
$220,000, it's the third highest.
Yeah. That's, and the idea of how you describe, you know, if you, not percentage of your income. Okay, so update and review of visual design of LCP. We've had our update, we're imagining it, we haven't seen it. That's okay. Again, I wanna update and review visual design of LCP. That's, you guys are gonna try to rank this stuff and provide feedback for the design, next week. Me too, but I'm gonna be
We're
here.
gonna get an updated matrix from which to work.
Yes, correct. When I say you guys, I will be here virtually. Me too, but I'm just not gonna physically be here. I wanna kind of put a bird in your ear, probably focus on, well, we'll follow the lead, probably focus on the prioritization, and we'll fall back on the visual design a little bit. We know it's incredibly important, but, I don't ever wanna muddy the waters of T and B's, getting it done by, by us being over, we have not ever over meddled, but we're just gonna kinda let you two guys go ahead, get it done. And say, oh, it's not because the committee's slowing us down or whatever, because we haven't, we've been working incredibly diligently, but,
When you asked Sharon for that updated matrix,
yeah,
could we all get it enough in advance
I'll
of
do it
next Tuesday?
tomorrow, as soon as she sends, and I don't need to be the gatekeeper of anything, I try to include all of you and let her respond.
She's at a conference, I think she said,
I
so.
think that was,
Try and let her to respond to everybody, and absolutely, the agenda's gotta be posted, well, close to be posted tomorrow and everything anyway, so. Cool. Update and review of executive summary, we don't have one, which is, that's okay, so. We did F. I think we're not gonna probably go the next full hour and 20, which is great. Could we spend some time, on E, which would be our last item agenda, the global review of local comprehensive plan, including review, discussion of government, you know, can we just look at it kinda now, which is on the website? And, you could throw it all on the table here, cause this could be an effective 20 or 30-minute thing, since we have the time and Sharon can hear it eventually. Does that resonate with everyone?
So we're working off the most recent draft of the LCP?
Yeah. Which I believe is on the website.
let me just go there to get it, 'cause I don't know if I have it.
Does everyone have one? Are you getting to one?
I'm gonna go to the website, cause I
Me
don't
too.
know if my most,
Me too.
if what I have most recent is,
Me too.
Town Harwich website?
Yes.
yeah.
314 is the most recent one.
Oh, all right, then
We
that,
already-
then
we
I
already have
did,
that.
then I did have that, okay. I was not sure at this point, this,
314? Okay.
yeah,
That is, 226 is on the website, so let's go to
oh,
314.
yeah, three. Get to the governance.
314?
The date of 314.
Yeah, no, no, that's 314. Maybe I do.
Is where it is.
If anyone has it, you wanna, do you have a date that it came from?
I have it
314.
as
Yeah, it
March
came on,
14th,
yeah, it came
25.
from, you sent it, oh, Sharon sent it on,
I sent it? Oh,
Christine.
good for me.
wait, wait.
I sent it on
No,
the,
Christine sent it on the 17th to all of us.
okay.
I've got some thoughts at some point.
Sure, if
I'm
you
not
want to,
sure
jump
where-
in, throw it all out there. I got it now. I got it.
Okay, some of the
This-
holes that we have now are the executive summary,
Mm-hmm.
and how is that being prepared?
I had asked, Sharon specifically for it, and she said it's a little empty right now since we haven't prioritized the action
Okay.
plan.
So that's a little bit, not very far, but a little bit down the road.
Yep,
Then, I'm sorry, let me find, why is this? Okay, so then I have to use this outline. Introduction, vision statement. Hey, we're in good shape on the vision statement.
we even got the select board to sign
Section-
off on that, remember?
Section 3 is in pretty good shape, though we are trying to do some rewrites in the housing section. Section 4, the actions are mostly, that's the matrix that we're gonna now move from section 4 into the implementation in section 7.
Yeah.
And there, that's our main work product right now, is doing the implementation schedule that's gonna result from the ranking or the grouping that we do. So that's what we really need to focus on. We can start doing it manually next week, from this matrix. You know, if we don't get done, we have to decide when we're gonna meet after that. Let's see, and Christine, I think you're taking the lead on the capital plan?
Yes.
So that's another piece that has to come in. I raised a question to Christine about section 6, the housing production plan summary. And we could just take the easy route and just leave it as is. To me, I'm not sure if we've got a section 4 re-talking about all the housing, if we really need to have a section 6 on the housing production plan summary. Now, you can cut me off and tell me, yes, we do, and then I'll stop talking. But that's a question I have. And we need the visual package. So there aren't that many pieces. There are a couple of very big pieces there. But the executive summary, the visual package, the doing the priorities, and the capital plan. And those are the big holes right now.
So, the housing production plan summary is a short version of the attached
Yeah,
housing production plan?
yeah. And it's not a bad section, but I'm just not sure that we need it.
Are we gonna do an attached,
Summary of the summary,
summary of the
summary.
recreation,
space and rec?
Open space
No.
plan? I mean, so why do,
Well, I guess that's part of what I was
Was there,
asking.
is there a requirement?
I'm not positive, but I'm noticing that the HPP sections from other towns were incorporated into the local comprehensive.
So there may be
I
a,
believe
there
Sharon
may be a
had
requirement.
answered, yes, it is a requirement.
Oh, I don't buy it.
Wow.
I can't believe
And you're
that
gonna be
that's
out there
true.
with your papyrus revising it. No, I'm just teasing you. I'm just-
Sticky notes, he's
Sorry,
graduated to
Mary, I
sticky
just don't
notes.
believe that's the
I'm
correct
going
answer.
by memory now.
Okay,
Say that with affection, David.
I think I did.
Okay, all right, more to, go. All right,
So
all right.
that may be
Put
a
a
question
notch,
that,
yeah,
that
notch
question
in the
may go
sand.
away.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
think, Ed, you've just sort of backed up my at least question again.
yeah,
But if we're looking at the holes in the plan, that's the least important question.
Yeah,
The other points, there were about 4 of them that we really need to take into account. We got our planner working on one piece, we got the consultant that will work on the executive session. So we really need to get those priorities done.
Yep.
So the consultant can finish the executive summary and pull it all together.
and I will, you know, when, just as I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, that we're not gonna, we are not gonna give anybody the opportunity to say that the committee slowed them down. The executive summary, we've all said for a long time, is probably the only thing, or is what most people read. And when we actually shop this summer, like that's, I think, the elevator speech, so to speak. So that is something that we are gonna make sure, feels like us.
There's gonna be 2 things that people are gonna look at. They're gonna look at that,
Yeah.
but they're also gonna look at the action plan implementation schedule. Because we're gonna have, an implementation schedule that's gonna say what are the most important actions, and that's what's gonna be tracked. And they will tell all the people who've been asking for tracking of how it's gonna work. A lot of people are gonna pay as much attention to that section as to the, executive summary. I think.
Is this maybe an obvious question, but it's okay, you know, one of the big system changes we had moved is that we put goals, objectives, and actions into one section, remember? Remember when we first started, they were separated and that, so they all read as one. Where does the prioritized actions, are they gonna go early in the, I guess we're gonna have to see the design, right? Is it gonna go earlier in the document? Is it gonna be
I
in
think
section
that's going
4?
in section 7, if I understand correctly. We're gonna take all of the items in section 4,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're creating this implementation schedule in section 7. I guess that's where I thought the ranking was gonna go, but maybe I'm misunderstanding.
And it's just, you
That's
just,
how I thought it was.
you don't have to decide, but we're just saying it out there. I could also see, a visual graphic of, you know, we may show our work of what the ranking is, and that may be in you know, and then you may also have the action plan schedule, which is in 7. There may be a pop-out in 4 of like the top whatever, you know, these are the most timely things. Or there may be a pop-out graphic way early or in the executive summary that includes that as well.
It could go in any of those 3 places.
Correct,
the
and it may be,
executive
there may be
summary, 4, or
components of
7.
it that are repeated a
Yeah.
little bit.
That's okay to repeat them.
Yep. You know, way back when we first started, before we had we didn't have Christine, we didn't have a consultant, we had nothing, didn't even have an RFP. We started by looking at, other town plans that we liked, and a lot of them, you know, remember we liked Yarmouth, there was a lot of, photographs from around town of iconic locations and stuff. We still like that, I'm just putting that out there in the ether about design.
Yep.
Because people look at these in color PDFs, I think,
That's
Yep.
good stuff.
so online, so it would be nice to have some good stock Harwich photography in there, and that's important for us to make sure it's the right photography, it's not
Yes,
like something like, oh God, or, you know.
the generic.
So
variant.
the
Yes.
greatest hits from the covers of the town reports.
Ooh, I love it, that would be good, there's some great photography there.
Probably just have to make sure they give credit to those photographers, but that's easy enough.
Yeah, if they were on the town.
They were on the
report
town,
covers. Wow.
if they were on the cover of the town, they'd
Yep.
probably be happy enough to be
Yep.
in here too.
So I'm putting that into the record. Christine, were you gonna say something? No. So looking at this, all right, could we think in just the remaining few minutes here, I mean, I think we all like what's in here. It's kind of like the housing production plan. We liked a lot what's in there, and then we went through the review process with stakeholders, and it did make it better, even though it's like challenging at the time. So we're gonna have some process of this with that. Could we spend 5 minutes and throw some stuff at the wall here of what we anticipate might be objections, challenges, gripes? Sometimes it's the stuff you never expected, but I'm just,
Well, the select board has taken out the main not in my backyard concern, which is the North Harwich housing project. I mean, it's always whose axe is getting gored is gonna give the biggest complaint. Most of this stuff, I think if people feel they've been heard, and if we give them some specific stuff, I don't think it'll be received negatively.
To David's point, one of the things I liked was there was continuous references to the information taken from the meetings that we had according to whatever meeting from the population. I like that continuous reference to this is what the public said, this was the data from that. That was one of the points I did like.
Yeah.
And that feeling that someone was heard.
You know, I still have the 2011 plan in my head, because we got through a town meeting without any dissent. There was not even a comment about it. So that sounds great, except the whole reaching out and getting people to buy into it wasn't done.
No.
It was just the planning board document.
No.
This time is very, very different. So there's been enough outreach that people have been heard. Now, have we done a good enough job to give them specifics? We can't prejudge that, but I think we've done okay.
I think the matrix and the transparency and the tracking is going to answer that, pretty much answer that question, and let them see definitively that the words were put into action. And I think that's going to answer that. On that note too, I just happened to think about why Sharon may have introduced this collaborative software. If it would be easier for her to gather the final
Of course it is.
output.
Of course it is.
But that's not gonna help the process for us. I just wanted to mention
The
that.
whole thing should, I mean, from the very beginning, we should have never been reviewing drafts like this on single PDF, single Word documents that we can't find. I mean, I'm gonna be like really snarky, like it's not 1998,
No, but it
you
is.
know?
It's been
But
very
like,
unwieldy.
okay, this
You
is,
gonna
this
take
is,
from my
It has
job?
been
yeah, this
very
is what
unwieldy.
we got. But, you know, so I really appreciate though what you guys said, that like, let's just get this done next
Right.
week. And we've been low tech all the way. Let's
But
just
it
stay
works.
analog.
We're still in
Yeah,
that
yeah, it's
collaborative
fine.
mode.
It's fine. It's all good. So I'm just gonna, to play a little devil's advocate here. So it sounds like, we're gonna have some real specific stuff around housing and attainable housing, which is incredibly important to the whole gist of why this matters. You know, I'm looking through at some of the language that we really have worked really hard on. What's another criticism, I'm not saying that we should, but just to anticipate, you're not doing enough for the trees, you're not doing enough for the water, you're not saying enough about, anyone wanna throw back about that a little bit?
You know, Joyce, I think we included a lot of that in the document, and because I think if you look long-term, we had to be realistic about what needs to be done. But I don't know if it's because of the way it's used, things like that are usually presented to the leadership of the town or what, but that seems to fall by the wayside every time. Every time.
Well, that's why I'm saying it. I'm just trying to anticipate what is criticism, and as you socialize it, you know, one of the things in sitting in the select board meetings, being adjacent to, and trying to get that HPP approved, was, the tension of what was enforceable, right? So like, when, say, Patrick Otten talks about like a tree warden or something like that.
Right.
And very, you know, not off topic from what we have heard and the stresses that the data has all given us that the town is facing, but then the reality of that implementation and enforcement and the legality of it was challenging. So, just on a high level, making sure we're at least getting the ideas in there. Yeah.
We were spending a lot more time maybe talking about housing, but our list of actions probably includes quite a bit in that area.
Does.
Well, let's
does.
make sure it does.
It does, that's what I'm
And I-
saying.
you
So
know-
maybe to take Mary's point, could you raise the flag for next week
Okay.
about,
Yeah, take a good look through that.
yeah, and
matrix.
make sure that we're there enough, you know, that we're there enough, because in all this like perpetual review, sometimes you're like, ooh, the spice balance is off a little bit. So, you know, the flavor profile, there we
Well,
go.
that or maybe it needs to come from, the same recommendation may need to come from a different direction. And maybe it'll sit better with folks. I don't know.
I mean, there's a very real tension there, I get it, you know, like when, I'm just falling on this example of the tree thing. like, from everything we've heard and a lot of environmental pressures and things like that, gosh, it sounds good to protect trees in Harwich, but like exactly how you do that in a way that's legally enforceable and financially sustainable, and stuff is like really challenging, to be fair.
You know,
Yeah.
if we have one or two advocates for some of the open space and natural resource stuff, still, if we as a committee make sure that those things are well enough covered, and we've got some.
Yeah, and I will say, one of the criticisms from, like, you know, my demographic or skew might be, are we talking about the youth enough? Are we talking about our, you know, and I just kind of skewed, look a little bit on, Control F for school, and so fine, and there's some really important language in there that we did put on early in about, like, young families and the youth and what makes Harwich Harwich and things like that. I think Christine's work about, like, very professional specific stuff around attainable housing will be able to point to that, because, you know, all the, and another thing I'm maybe putting on the table that is, the declining school enrollment, which, you know, we are super conscious of, because it all has to do with housing, right? If you can't afford to live here, then your kid's not gonna go to school here. But then what is the scope of the, plan, right? You've educated us that it's land use, it's, you know,
It's a growth and development policy guide.
so I think we're though putting the meat on the bones of that. I don't think we're overly transactional about this. I think this does feel, we care about growth and policy because of the people, right? Which is another talking point when we go out and socialize this.
Just so, Mary and I were
Okay,
going through
yes.
emails, and Sharon did send the updated
I have to
revised Excel spreadsheet of the action items.
Oh.
She sent it out to everyone on March 19th.
Okay?
That's the
Not
latest
to
one?
everyone, it was
Oh.
just to me, Joyce, Garrett, you,
And Brian.
Brian.
Ah.
So, yes.
All the important people, right?
Yeah.
Again, in
Go
trying to
ahead.
set up the software, that's what it was about.
Brian's on, let's.
So I stand corrected.
319, well, we'll make sure we all have a fresh,
Well, somebody needs to send it
1999.
If
to
you
us.
want us to do our homework, you have to
If you
give
want
us
to
the
sit and
assignment.
look at your
Yes,
list as well as
please.
talking with Sharon, we have it.
It's fine. if you-
Could you send
Send
that
it
out
to-
immediately, like right now?
Right now,
And then
I
if
was-
it turns out not to be the latest, send out another one.
yeah.
I'll go ahead.
Ed, anything else you think, you have a real good finger on the pulse of the town politically?
No, I think we're doing pretty well.
So are there 3 or 4 people running for select board?
3.
Three,
Just 3?
just three.
For two
That's-
slots?
That's official now.
Two slots,
Yeah, you had to have papers back by 5 o'clock
Well,
last
that
Friday.
means, that's a big change.
That's a huge change.
That's a huge change.
Yep, that's what I was saying to
Yeah,
Barbara
that's what
earlier.
we're
I missed
talking
that.
about.
I missed
Yeah.
that. Huh?
How do you think the zoning's gonna go over, some of some of the things we talked about in zoning? I
Kind
mean,
of things.
well, go ahead.
I think the obviously, the one that gets the red flag is the suggestion of doing an inclusionary zoning. You know,
Explain, explain it to us a little again, so we have it top of our head.
what an inclusionary is?
Yeah.
It's, you know, for somebody who's developing like Marsh, an 8-unit subdivision, you say, you know, 10% or one of the units needs to be an affordable unit, or you need to pony up some cash into the town's housing
To the trust.
fund.
And what's the controversy about that?
Well, let's see.
Let me count the ways, but yeah.
Well, let's see, the last time it came up, Leo got up at town meeting and he said, well, you know, I may very well subdivide my farm, and by doing so, for me to be able to give a portion of my farm to my daughter, I'm gonna have to pay the town $50,000 to set aside to develop. I mean, that's.
Okay, no, I'm
you know,
putting it
that's-
out there
yeah,
so that we
yeah.
can know to socialize it, because
So-
here we are this far later, and we have a lot of public documentation and a lot of of sentiment that, hey, maybe subdivisions aren't the best right now for our town at this
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
but this is what we're zoned to do, so maybe the appetite to change is a little different, like, oh, hey, if we're gonna tolerate, quote, you know, we're gonna have that subdivision, how can that benefit the town in numerous ways? So maybe that sentiment has changed a little
So
bit.
right now, the latest version, and I think this was from my language, and I don't think Christine changed it. I could be wrong, because we haven't done this carefully enough yet, but right now, it's sitting as a consider adoption of a variety of specific zoning strategies.
Yeah.
And it's talking about the Affordable Homes Act, it's talking about a starter district, amendments to the open space residential development bylaw, blah, 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 and consider inclusionary zoning, including an option for payment in lieu of on-site construction.
Yeah.
So it keeps on the table, but it doesn't hit anybody over the head with it.
So, and I would advocate in this revision, again, we're putting this on the record, you've told me what inclusionary zoning is 9 times. I've
Yeah.
been pretty invested in this, and I never remember. So, so I see it in our list of action items. It's not the warm and fuzzy word, what the hell is inclusionary zoning? So either on like page, in 413, page 64 currently, we have adopt an inclusionary zoning bylaw as a possible action. Could we like have a little definition in layperson purposes, what that is? So someone doesn't have to reference the appendix? For what-
That's where a graphic in the margin
Yeah.
Sure.
is gonna,
All this
you
great,
know,
all this great.
definition.
Inclusionary
Yeah.
zoning.
for example, or an example, or an
Yeah,
explanation.
it's,
Something that's, you know, short.
sells it to the people, man.
I think the biggest problem we're gonna have, and I was saying this last month, and I was facetious, but
No,
But
there's
it's still
always truth
true.
in humor, yes.
that we have done our due diligence. We have to remember that we have done our due
Yeah, we
diligence.
have.
We've worked long and hard, we've engaged people, but there's always gonna be people who it just, for whatever reason, was not on their radar until it gets to town meeting, and then they're gonna say, I didn't know anything about this. And you just can't let that bother you. But the other thing is that the word plan. If I'm a layperson off the street who hadn't spent 2.5 years on this, you know, plan sounds like, this is what we're gonna do. And somebody's worrying about how they're gonna keep the roof over their head and everything this week, and they're stressed to the max. And they think, you're giving us solutions, and we have to keep remembering that this is advisory, this is, you know, to socialize it, as you say, Joyce, it's gonna be things like, these are recommendations, long-term and short-term. We dug into as much as we could to try to offer as a vision for where the town may be going and what we might be able to do.
Yeah,
And I think the promotion of that, we have that opportunity, and I think we discussed it, about still going out to the community even while this is being finalized.
Yep.
And really educating the public that this is what it's for, and that may mitigate those that say, I didn't even know that this was happening.
No, there'll still be some, I will bet you money, but.
planning, you know, you're working on that. To that point, Christina, you don't have to have an, I'm fine hiding at town meeting. Do you wanna, I don't know if anyone wants a 30-second, the last two, I've given a 30-second blurb. There, we're working on this. Do we wanna just hide?
No, I think for this town meeting, we need to
Paper
ask
bag.
for 3 minutes just to give them an update and
Yep.
anticipation
Alright,
for next fall.
could you put me on the, could you work on that, or should, I think, yeah, I will be there. If anybody else
Okay.
wants to do
And
it.
it may not be bad to have just,
happens
some
up front.
photos or
Yeah, it
some
happens
maps.
early, it happens early in,
People are walking in to remind them. of
Oh, that's
all
not a bad idea at
Yeah.
all.
okay,
There's always a bunch of people handing you.
okay,
Yeah.
with Ed's cookies and stuff, Ed always sells cookies for the.
Cookies.
Yeah, for the Key Club. Okay, if, in your travels, if I'm happy to give the little blurb in was it Monday night? Yeah, Monday night,
Yeah.
Can,
yeah.
even to give them the flyers still,
Mhm.
to direct them to the website,
Mhm.
Sure,
anything
Sure,
like that.
love it, love it,
Just really
Yeah.
love it. Okay, have a
parting gifts they can have.
Just because you mentioned it, the Key Club cookie sales last Last Saturday was the 100th anniversary of Key Clubs
Cool.
internationally.
You
and-
still have that?
Yeah, and Key Clubs are,
Hot damn.
the Key Clubs, separate and apart from Kiwanis and the college
Right.
version of it, Key Clubs are the largest, is the largest number of members of a community service organization in the world.
Cool.
More members than Rotary, more members than Interact, than Lions Club. Pretty amazing.
They're good keeping track of it.
And as their 100th anniversary project, they were out with a bake sale at Stop and Shop, and
Yep.
they raised a little over
Awesome
$600.
stuff. Key Club is a student-led high school organization. Make the world a better place through service.
Yeah, yeah.
Good for them. All right, so town meeting, any other from your subject matter expert areas where you're parked in the part of the world?
Just a reminder that the Historic Commission is gonna go up for 18-month demo delay from 12 months.
There was support for that?
Yeah.
Supposedly it's gonna be on the warrant. I don't know whether or not there's support for that or not.
Okay, but it's gonna be on the
It's
warrant?
gonna be on the- Yeah.
Well, they did go from 6 months to 12 and got approval for that. What was that,
I
half a
hope they
dozen
do.
years ago?
Is there anybody who, have you heard an articulated, objection?
I have not heard anything, no, and I think if nothing else, probably this West Baptist Church is gonna be helpful towards that. I don't know.
That one depends on who shows up. That
And I
one
can-
could go
Well,
either way.
David, you're absolutely right. It's really dependent on who shows up.
Who shows up.
And you want
And
to
who
hear the
stays for the
argument
whole
against it?
meeting, in case.
Yeah, hear the argument against it, because it's related to our work.
Anybody
and
has
then
enough money to buy
Oh,
one
it's
of these
irrelevant, I
things,
know.
We'll
has
outweigh,
enough money to wait an additional 6
I,
months,
I,
you know?
I hear you, Ed. I know.
It's disgusting.
Yeah,
It's what?
It's disgusting.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, it's-
in my dozen or so years, I don't think I've seen any effective use of the demolition delay. I just don't think it's been an
Well-
effective tool. Maybe I'm missing one, but
Other than me, no.
Recent, I think it was a full cape that they pulled down next to the old back office associates building.
Yeah.
that's Barbara's,
Um,
that's all
Yeah.
Barbara's fingerprints are all over that.
Yeah. That was held up through a demolition delay, wasn't it?
They gave them 1 year,
Yeah.
right.
And it allowed you guys time to,
Well, it should have, but it didn't really work that way, but that's besides the point.
yeah.
so one of my favorite examples, or favorite negative examples, in the campgrounds, on Park Place, I think it was, there was an old Swiss chalet type of
Yeah,
house. It happened to be incredibly ugly.
but it was
Your
one of a kind.
But it was one of a kind ugly. So this owner was very interested in moving quickly and cooperating, and he was able to put forward a plan and convince the Historic Commission, that it would work. It didn't. If you walk by it now, it's got a few of the elements of the original house, and it
Yeah.
has none of the feel of it at all.
No.
So it didn't work that time. I mean, that shouldn't be taken to shouldn't make a larger deal of it. It's just, this is one of the reasons I'm not totally convinced about how well it works.
Okay, any other parting arguments?
Just
We can wrap it up.
FYI,
Yeah.
we did talk about April 28th at the March 18th meeting.
Oh, I wanted
so
to,
you'll
I
know.
did want to talk about, thank you for
Because
bringing that up.
on the 6th, I think that if we go to second night of town
I
meeting.
did want to bring up the calendar, thank you. So we're done, we're here, April 1st. Woo! And we accomplished some very meaningful things, so thank you all for being here. The 8th is happening. Next week is happening in an analog version. The 2 weeks from the 8th is April vacation,
Right.
which can we pencil ourselves in for the 29th?
I won't be here, but
That would be before town meeting.
Yeah, but we overruled you last time we brought it up.
Would
April
that be okay,
20
Christine,
20
potentially?
I'll check.
Okay,
Oh, the 29th, sorry.
29th.
Okay.
So that would be 3 weeks, question, LPC.
That's a good amount of time to,
Yes, to keep us all on task. And, actually, versus well, we've been doing Tuesdays. I wonder if we could actually maybe do people have a strong objection to Monday, the 28th?
Well, maybe that's why I had 28 in my
Okay, let's do,
minutes. I
okay,
think we-
could we try to pencil in the 28th then? Because I could be there in person. I'm rarely here, I'm only here the first Tuesday
Well,
of the
if
month.
and then we'd be in the room next door.
That or, well, we met at the community center 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but-
that was on Tuesday, that's when the band concert was.
All right,
Or the
so
band-
let's,
Yeah, but if we have
let's,
Monday,
let's
yeah,
try
select
for
board.
Monday, the
Yeah.
28th, and we can always then have a backup of the 29th.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
don't
more
mind coming
important we
virtually.
agree on the date, we could find somewhere.
Yeah, let's try
Yeah.
the 28th, Monday, the 28th. And that would put us in, we'd have 2 strong meetings before town meeting, which I think would be very good. One next week and then 3 weeks from the 8th, which would be good.
5 o'clock presumably.
Yeah, if we can get the room. And Christine, thank you for bringing all your incredible experience and wisdom to the housing thing. It is all about the housing. It is. It's all about anything we can do to, I was impressed, we all talk about the different, you're talking about the housing stuff. From my little perspective of the world, like boating, my husband's a boat, and there's a change in like some of the support services from a family-owned business in Yarmouth that is being sold, and how people can move the boats around Cape Cod, which is an incredible privilege, but also what makes kind of Cape Cod, and moving to a much higher end, sort of less accessible model. And it all has to do with the family wasn't able to hire people to work for
Yep.
them because no one can live here. So like literally could not hire CDL drivers, and the siblings who built the business with the parents are in their 60s now, and so we know this because we've done them, but it's all about the housing.
One question, is there, on town meeting, is there any zoning bylaw changes?
Just the accessory dwelling unit revisions.
Which tell us about that in our last.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, I don't
So the
understand.
state, as part of the Affordable Homes Act, the governor and the state legislature had signed definitions for how they define an accessory dwelling unit. And so some of the criteria, for example, they've capped it at half the size of the gross floor area of a principal dwelling, or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. And they have made it a protected use under Mass Zoning Chapter 40A, Section 3, which is often commonly called the Dover Amendment, which protects education, religious institutions, agriculture, that they give those entities a certain amount of latitude from zoning requirements. And so now ADUs are under that protection, so they are called what's called a protected use. And as part of the state initiative, they've allowed it by right. 2 things I will say. Harwich had already allowed accessory dwelling units up to 1,000 square feet by right. We also required owner occupancy, and that the units were not to be rented on as a short-term rental unit. And the state has eliminated any restriction on the owner occupancy, and they have allowed, they've limited the amount of the length of how long a ADU can be rented for. And because this is now defined by the state, we need to make sure our zoning is in compliance with
So when you say
that statute.
they limited the amount of time,
The length of time that an ADU can be rented, yes.
I don't understand that.
what does that mean?
What do you mean, short-term or long-term?
So for the state, someone can rent both units. So say if you
Yeah,
had
that-
a house
yeah, I
and an
understand
accessory
that.
dwelling, you can rent it. And one can be rented. We can't prohibit short-term rentals. What the towns can do is regulate the short-term rentals. So it's a little bit murky in terms of how to enforce short-term rentals if that's a desire of a community.
So they made it worse a little bit.
Sounds
Yeah.
like, it sounds like.
I
it.
don't
It's,
understand how
there
you
was a
would
lot of
regulate.
pushback, I'm sorry?
I don't understand how you would, an example of being able to regulate something like that.
It's what the, it was a very rushed, process, and so there was a lot of pushback from communities, particularly from the Cape and Islands, who have advocated for owner occupancy and to prohibit the use of short-term rentals.
I.e.,
So-
now have you just made our problem worse?
Absolutely,
That was the whole push for accessory dwellings here, because people can't find long.
Right, but now do we just have
Accessory
more?
dwelling- Accessory dwelling units are also very expensive to implement, so the last 2 years, we've had 18 accessory dwelling units issued as a building permit since the town adopted it as of right. 9 of them have been over 900 square feet, and 10 of them were less than 900 square feet, and only 2 certificate of occupancies have been issued from the 18, from the list of 18 accessory dwelling
So
units.
2 were only ever completed.
Correct.
Why
And
do you
5
think only 2?
I'm sorry?
Why do you think only 2?
I think for various reasons, for costs, it could be costs, it could also be trying to get a contractor to come and do the
Yeah.
work.
Because 18 is a huge increase over when I was here. That's a big jump. That means the thing is really taking hold.
Were they,
But if it's,
but if they're trying to do it themselves, it's gonna take time, and you're looking at 2 years to get a contractor on board these days anyhow.
were they standalone units or carve-outs of existing
It
structures?
varied, it varied. That's a good question, I can take a look at that.
2 were completed on our street in the past.
So now, we don't have owner occupancy required, we don't have a negative on short-term rentals, so all the special people that come and do it, and they can just use it for whatever they want, and they can have 2 short-term rentals all summer long. Is that right?
It's not her fault.
No, I'm asking.
He's on our
I know.
team.
No, that's what the new thing is saying?
Basically what it sounds like.
Possibly, and so I am double checking in terms of the length of the short-term rentals. My understanding is that the state was fairly strong in not wanting to regulate short-term rentals as part of this legislation.
Let the town do
So,
it.
Yeah, they had opted to allow the town to regulate it, so.
can the town?
That'd be great if the town
So
could
the
do it, but we
town-
haven't.
So the language that we're using, we have asked that the ADUs not be rented, I believe, for less than 6 months.
Oh, okay.
But
So there
And
is
that's
some
what's
type
on the
of
warrant?
criteria.
That's what's on the warrant?
Yes.
Okay,
So it's
so,
fairly
so we're
lengthy.
pro what's on the warrant for year-round people.
So
is
you're
what we're
saying that the ADUs, it has to be 6 months, a minimum of 6
I'm
months?
going to double check that, but that, yes.
But that's what the language is on the
Okay.
warrant,
I
is
thought we was
more
like,
year-round
1 week,
protection.
1 week.
And the most important thing there is that we can go further than the state. We can regulate it
You can
here.
make it more restrictive.
state hasn't-
You can't make
right.
it less restrictive.
No, that's what I'm saying. So
So
the
can we go-
state doesn't keep us
So that will
from,
be an important thing in town meeting to
Yeah,
really be
because-
socialized
So the
well.
planning board's holding a public hearing, so feel free to come on April 8th.
April, next,
April 8th, next week. It's a big
is
day
it,
for
oh, is it all about this?
Yeah,
Part of the ADU, yes.
big
What
day.
Thank
time
you.
is, the hearing is right after this meeting.
Yes. And I have 2 continued public hearings as part of
So
it.
it's not first.
It's not the first item.
I just looked at my calendar, I'll be late next week. Probably late.
Anything else before we close?
Yes, Brian joined us at some point, so we have to do a roll call when we do finally
Okay,
adjourn, if anybody ever makes a motion.
and get a motion to adjourn?
I'll move that we,
I motion to adjourn.
no, I already did it, too late.
Can I get a
Motion to
second?
adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Come on, Brad, second.
I second.
All right, we'll take a roll call.
I was worried about having to leave early.
Mary,
Mary Jones.
Adjourn.
Adjourn.
Ed adjourned.
Joyce, adjourn.
David, I.
Bernadette, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Brian, aye.
Thank you.